Daeho Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the dark corridors of Kepler 442 mining station. His toolbox rattled with each step on the metal floor. The station was old and always needed fixing. Pipes leaked, lights flickered, and air recyclers made strange noises. That was his job, to fix these things. He had worked on this station for 3 years now. Most people here were not friendly. They did their jobs and kept to themselves. The pay was good, but life was lonely. Daeho sent most of his money back home to Earth, where his sick mother lived with his younger sister. Today he was checking the lower cargo holds. These areas were rarely used and often forgotten. The station manager Byung-ho Park had told him to inspect everything before the monthly supply ship arrived. Daeho did not like Park. The man was greedy and rude to the workers. The lower levels were darker and colder than the rest of the station. Emergency lights cast long shadows on the walls. Daeho checked his tablet for the cargo manifest. According to the records, these holds should be empty or contain old mining equipment. He entered cargo hold 7 and turned on his flashlight. Rows of metal containers filled the space. Most were labeled with standard shipping codes. But something felt wrong. The air was too warm here, and he could hear a soft humming sound. Daeho followed the sound deeper into the hold. Behind a stack of containers, he found something that should not be there. A large metal cage with glowing energy bars instead of regular bars. Inside the cage was the most incredible creature he had ever seen. The being stood nearly 7 feet tall. It looked like a cross between a human and a large cat. Silver fur covered its muscular body. Battle scars marked its arms and chest. The creature wore pieces of advanced armor that looked damaged and powered down. Its golden eyes watched Daeho with sharp intelligence. Daeho stepped back in shock. His heart pounded as he looked at the magnificent being. The creature did not move to attack. Instead, it tilted its head and studied him with those piercing golden eyes. Warning labels covered the cage in multiple languages. Daeho could read some of them. Dangerous alien specimen, do not approach, and Velthari battle sentinel, extremely dangerous. He had never heard of the Velthari before. The creature spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. The words were not in any language Daeho knew, but somehow he understood the tone was not threatening. It sounded more like a question. Daeho pulled out his universal translator device. All station workers carried them in case they met traders from other worlds. He turned it on and pointed it toward the cage. "Who are you?" The translator spoke in a mechanical voice, converting the alien words to Korean. "I am Daeho," he said, not sure why he was talking to a caged alien. "I work here. I fix things." The creature listened to the translation and nodded slowly. "I am called Wansu. I am prisoner here." "How long have you been here?" Daeho asked. "Many cycles of your small star. The cruel one keeps me like animal for trade." Daeho understood. Park was trafficking this intelligent being like cargo. It made him sick to think about it. No sentient creature should be treated this way. He looked around the hold and noticed other cages, all empty now. This was clearly a regular operation. Park was capturing and selling alien beings to wealthy collectors in the core worlds. "Are you hurt?" Daeho asked. Wansu looked surprised by the question. "You show concern for enemy prisoner. You are not my enemy. You did nothing to me." The alien warrior studied him for a long moment. "You're kind human, yes. I know of humans from old stories. Stories say humans have something called compassion." "Some do," Daeho said. "What do they feed you? Little bad food? Not enough water?" Daeho felt anger building in his chest. This proud warrior was being slowly starved and humiliated. He made a quick decision that would change both their lives. "I will bring you better food. And water. But you must not tell anyone I was here." Wansu's eyes widened. "Why do this? Dangerous for you if Cruel One discovers." "Because it is right thing to do." That night, Daeho could not sleep. He kept thinking about the warrior in the cage. He had spent his break researching Velthari in the station database. There was very little information. They were described as an ancient warrior race, possibly extinct. The few records called them honorable fighters and protectors. The next day, Daeho returned to the cargo hold with a bag of real food from the cafeteria and 2 bottles of clean water. Wansu was sitting in meditation pose when he arrived. "You came back," the warrior said with surprise. "I said I would." Daeho passed the food through the energy bars. They stung his hands, but he ignored the pain. Wansu ate slowly, savoring each bite. This is first good food in many cycles. You risk much for stranger. We all deserve to eat well, Daeho said. As days passed, Daeho visited regularly. He brought food, medical supplies for Wansu's wounds, and something even more important: conversation. The two began to understand each other better. Wansu told him about Velthari culture. They were warriors but also philosophers and guardians. They protected weaker species and maintained balance in the galaxy. At least they had before their numbers fell and they scattered across the stars. My people remember humans from long ago, Wansu said during one visit. Humans were allies, partners in great work, but that was before the sundering. What was the sundering? Daeho asked. Great disaster separated the allied races. My people thought humans were lost forever. Daeho learned that Wansu had been captured during a raid on a pirate base, where he was trying to free enslaved colonists. The pirates sold him to Park, who saw only profit in the rare alien. I should have escaped by now, Wansu admitted with shame. But the energy cage weakens me, and I had lost hope. Hope for what? Hope that anyone cared about honor anymore, about protecting others. But you show me some still do. Their friendship grew stronger each day. Daeho found himself looking forward to their conversations. Wansu was wise and kind despite his fierce appearance. The warrior began teaching him about Velthari philosophy and fighting techniques, as much as he could through the cage bars. But Daeho knew this could not continue forever. Park would eventually discover what he was doing. Or worse, the monthly transport ship would arrive to take Wansu away to some collector, who would treat him like a trophy. One evening, Daeho sat in his small quarters and made a decision that frightened and excited him. He could not let his friend remain a prisoner. It was time to take action, no matter the risk. He began planning Wansu's escape. Daeho spent the next 2 weeks studying every security system on Kepler 442 station. He memorized guard schedules, camera positions, and maintenance cycles. His work gave him access to technical areas most people never saw. He used this advantage to map every possible escape route. The plan had to be perfect. One mistake would mean death for both him and Wansu. During his research, Daeho discovered something that made his blood run cold. Hidden in Park's encrypted files was a shipping manifest. Wansu was scheduled for pickup in just 5 days. A luxury transport called the Golden Star would arrive to collect valuable cargo for wealthy buyers in the core systems. Time was running out. Daeho knew he could not do this alone. He needed help from someone he could trust completely. There was only one person on the station who fit that description. Yunji Lee worked in the communications center. She was quiet and kind. One of the few people who had ever been friendly to Daeho. They sometimes ate meals together and talked about their families back on Earth. She had joined the mining company to pay for her brother's medical school. Daeho found Yunji during her break in the small recreation area. She was reading a book on her tablet, trying to ignore the loud conversation of some miners at the next table. Yunji, I need to talk to you, he said quietly. Somewhere private, she looked up with concern. What is wrong? You look worried. Meet me in Maintenance Tunnel C after your shift, and Yunji, tell no one about this. That evening, Daeho led her through the empty maintenance tunnels to a storage room where they could talk safely. He had disabled the security camera earlier. Daeho, you are scaring me, Yunji said. What is this about? He took a deep breath. Park is running an illegal operation. He is trafficking sentient beings and selling them as slaves. Yunji's eyes went wide. That is horrible. But what can we do? Park has too much power here. I found one of his prisoners, a warrior from an alien race called Velthari. He is intelligent and kind. He does not deserve to be caged like an animal. You want to free him, she said, understanding immediately. Yes, but I need your help. The transport ship arrives in 5 days. If we do nothing, Wansu will be sold to some collector who will treat him like a trophy. Yunji was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded firmly. Tell me what you need me to do. They spent hours planning every detail. Onji would use her access to the communication system to create false alarms and disable security cameras. Daeho would cut power to the energy cage and guide Wansu to the escape pods during the monthly maintenance cycle, when most systems would be offline. The night of the escape, Daeho's hands shook as he prepared his tools. He had barely slept for 3 days, running the plan over and over in his mind. Everything had to work perfectly. At exactly midnight, the maintenance cycle began. Most of the station's systems went into low power mode for routine diagnostics. This gave them a 2-hour window to act. Daeho made his way to the cargo hold while Yoonji went to the communications center. His earpiece crackled as she confirmed the first part of the plan. "Security cameras in cargo area are offline," she whispered. "You have 15 minutes before the next guard patrol." Wansu was waiting when Daeho arrived. The warrior had been preparing for days, doing exercises to build up his strength despite the energy cage's weakening effects. "Tonight we escape," Daeho said as he pulled out his cutting tools. "Are you certain about this path?" Wansu asked. "If we are caught, your park will kill you." "Better to die trying than live knowing I did nothing." Daeho connected his power tools to the station's emergency circuit. Sparks flew as he began cutting through the cage's control panel. The energy bars flickered and dimmed. "It is working," Wansu said with excitement. Suddenly, alarm bells began ringing throughout the station, but these were not the alarms Yoonji had planned to trigger. "Daeho." Her voice came through his earpiece, filled with panic. "Security Chief Minho discovered my activity. He is coming to your location with armed guards." Daeho's heart sank. Minho Choi was Park's most loyal enforcer. The man was known for his cruelty and would shoot first and ask questions later. "How long do I have?" Daeho asked while continuing to work on the cage. "Maybe 3 minutes." "Get out of there now!" "Not without Wansu." The energy bars finally failed. Wansu stepped out of the cage for the first time in months, stretching his powerful frame. Even weakened, he was an impressive sight. "We must run," Daeho said, grabbing his friend's arm. They had made it halfway across the cargo hold when bright lights flooded the area. Minho and 4 security guards blocked the exit, weapons drawn. "Stop right there," Minho shouted. "You are under arrest for theft of company property." "Property," Daeho said angrily. "He is a person, not property. He is cargo worth millions of credits. Park will not be happy about this." The guards raised their weapons. Daeho knew they would not hesitate to kill him, but he also knew he could not let them capture Wansu again. Without thinking, Daeho stepped in front of the warrior, spreading his arms wide. "If you want him, you will have to kill me first." Minho laughed coldly. "That can be arranged." What happened next shocked everyone. Wansu let out a roar that echoed through the cargo hold. The sound was not quite human and filled with ancient power. His golden eyes blazed with inner fire. The weakened restraint cuffs on his wrists snapped like paper. Energy coursed through his body as some hidden reserve of strength awakened. Wansu moved faster than human eyes could follow. He struck the first guard with a precise blow to the neck, dropping him unconscious. The second guard's weapon flew from his hands before he could fire. The third found himself lifted off the ground and gently placed aside. Minho tried to shoot, but Wansu was already behind him. One touch to a pressure point and the security chief collapsed. Through it all, Wansu was careful not to seriously harm anyone. These were not his true enemies, just people following orders. "How did you do that?" Daeho asked in amazement. "The cage weakened my body but not my spirit. Your courage awakened something that has slept too long." Wansu placed his clawed hand on Daeho's shoulder. His touch was warm and somehow comforting. "Daeho Kim, you risked everything for stranger. You showed honor that my people thought lost from this galaxy. By ancient law of my clan, I name you Battle Brother." He spoke words in his native language that the translator could not process properly. But Daeho felt something change inside him. A warmth spread through his chest and his vision seemed sharper somehow. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means we are bonded now, partners until death. Your courage has earned you place among the Velthari." Alarms were ringing louder now. More security teams would arrive soon. "We must leave this place," Wansu said. "Where do we go?" Daeho led them toward the maintenance bays where the escape shuttles were kept, but their path was blocked by more guards. "This way." Yoonji's voice came over the intercom system. "I am overriding the doors to Bay 7. There is a maintenance shuttle fueled and ready." They fought their way through the corridors. Wansu using his newfound strength to clear obstacles while Daeho used his knowledge of the station to find alternate routes. In the shuttle bay, they found Yoonji waiting beside a small but fast maintenance craft. "I am coming with you," she announced. "Too dangerous," Daeho protested. "Park will kill me anyway for helping you. Better we stay together." They boarded the shuttle just as security teams surrounded the bay. Daeho's hands flew over the controls, starting the engines and opening the bay doors. "This is Security Chief Minho," came a voice over the radio. "Surrender now and you will not be harmed." He lies, Wansu said simply. The shuttle blasted out of the bay and into open space. Behind them, Kepler 442 station grew smaller as they accelerated toward the nearest hyperspace jump point. Where do we go now? Hyunji asked. Wansu looked out at the stars with eyes that held ancient wisdom. To find others of my people, and to discover what this bond between us truly means. Daeho felt excitement and fear in equal measure. His old life was over, but a new adventure was just beginning. 3 days into their journey through hyperspace, Daeho was still trying to understand what had happened to him. The bond with Wansu grew stronger each day. He could sense the warrior's emotions and sometimes even hear his thoughts. It was amazing and frightening at the same time. Tell me more about this bond, Daeho said as they sat in the shuttle's small common area. Yunji was sleeping in the back cabin, exhausted from piloting through dangerous space lanes. Wansu closed his eyes and spoke in a reverent tone. In the old days, before the Sundering, my people formed sacred partnerships with worthy allies. The bond connects our spirits and makes us stronger together than apart. What is the Sundering? Daeho asked. You mentioned it before. A great disaster that happened long ago. 3 races worked together to keep peace in the galaxy. Humans, Velthari, and another people called the Shepherds. We were guardians and teachers for younger civilizations. Wansu opened his eyes and looked directly at Daeho. Then came the dark time. Something terrible happened that separated us all. My people thought humans were destroyed completely. We have been alone for thousands of your years. But humans survived and rebuilt, Daeho said. Yes, but you forgot the old alliance, forgot your true heritage. Until now. Wansu explained that the bond gave Daeho enhanced reflexes and limited telepathic communication. In return, Wansu gained something the Velthari had lost over the centuries: hope and the human ability to inspire others. Your people have a gift, Wansu said. You can bring different groups together and make them work as one. You see possibilities where others see only problems. Over the next few days, Daeho discovered the truth of these words. His reflexes were faster and his thinking clearer. When they encountered a damaged trading ship, he instinctively knew how to repair their engines using techniques Wansu's knowledge provided. The grateful traders told them about strange attacks happening across the outer rim. Entire colonies were going dark with no explanation. Ships were found drifting empty in space, their crews vanished without a trace. The Devourers, Wansu said with dread when they were alone again. I hoped they would never return. What are Devourers? Yunji asked. She had been listening from the doorway. An ancient enemy. They feed on the life force of entire worlds. They turn people into empty shells that serve their hunger. Wansu explained that only the combined strength of all 3 allied races had been able to stop the Devourers before the Sundering. Now they were returning and the galaxy was unprepared. We must reach my clan's hidden sanctuary, Wansu said urgently. They need to know that humans have returned and the bond can be formed again. Their destination was a small moon called New Busan in the frontier territories. The Velthari had established a secret base there decades ago. But getting there would not be easy. Park had not given up the chase. He had hired mercenaries from the Razor Syndicate to track them down. These were not ordinary criminals. They were led by a cyborg warlord named Taimino, who was known for his cruelty and advanced technology. The first attack came as they dropped out of hyperspace near a refueling station. 3 sleek fighter ships appeared on their scanners, moving faster than anything Daeho had ever seen. Shuttle pilot. Surrender now or be destroyed, came a cold mechanical voice over the radio. That is Taemin himself, Wansu said grimly. He must want us very badly. The fighters opened fire. Daeho's hands moved over the controls with supernatural skill, his movements perfectly synchronized with Wansu's tactical predictions. The shuttle danced between laser blasts that should have destroyed them. How are you doing that? Hyunji asked in amazement as she watched Daeho pilot like an expert. I can feel what Wansu is thinking, Daeho replied. He sees the patterns in their attack formations. Working together through their mental link, they managed to outmaneuver the fighters and escape into an asteroid field. The larger ships could not follow them through the dangerous rocks. This is only the beginning, Wansu warned. Taemin will not give up easily. They reached New Busan 3 days later. The moon looked empty and barren from space, but Wansu guided them to a hidden landing bay carved into the mountainside. Inside, they found a small community of Velthari survivors. There were perhaps 30 adults and a few cubs. They lived in chambers cut from the rock, decorated with beautiful carvings that told the history of their people. The clan's leader was an ancient female named Sun-Hee. Her fur had turned white with age, but her golden eyes still blazed with inner fire. She studied Daeho and Yoonji with great interest. "So," she said in perfect human language, "the bonding is possible again." I had begun to think it was only legend. Sun-Hee explained that she was over 400 years old and remembered the time before the sundering. She had been young then, but she recalled the Great Alliance and the terrible disaster that ended it. "The shepherds were the third member of our alliance," she told them. "They were wise and peaceful, devoted to maintaining harmony between all races. But something went wrong during the final battle with the Devourers." "What happened?" Daeho asked. "The shepherds sacrificed themselves to save the rest of us, or so we thought. Now I wonder if they became something else entirely." Sun-Hee revealed that the Velthari had been slowly dying out for centuries, not from war or disease but from spiritual emptiness. They had become too few and too scattered. They had lost their sense of purpose as guardians and teachers. "Your bond with Wansu proves that the old ways can return," she said to Daeho. "But we need more than one pair. We need many humans and Velthari to work together again." She showed them ancient records that told of other Velthari scattered across the galaxy. Some lived in hidden enclaves like this one. Others wandered alone, searching for meaning in a universe that seemed to have forgotten them. "There are also humans who carry the old bloodlines," Sun-Hee said, "descendants of those who survived the sundering. They have dreams and visions but do not understand what they mean." That night, as Daeho tried to sleep in the guest chambers, he had vivid dreams of vast battles among the stars. He saw humans and Velthari fighting side by side against creatures of pure darkness. He woke with tears on his face, feeling the weight of ancient loss. The next morning brought terrible news. Yoonji had been monitoring communications channels and intercepted military reports. The Razor Syndicate fleet had found New Busan. They were only hours away. "How did they track us here?" Wansu demanded. Sun-Hee looked grim. "There are traitors among the younger races. Some serve the returning darkness willingly." As if summoned by her words, explosions echoed through the mountain. The hidden base shook as attack ships began bombing the surface. "They know exactly where we are," Sun-Hee said. "Someone told them about our sanctuary." The Velthari warriors prepared for battle, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The base's defenses were old and had not been used in decades. "We cannot win this fight," Wansu said to Daeho, "but we can save the others. Get them to the escape ships." "I am not leaving you," Daeho replied firmly. "Then we fight together, battle brother." The attack came from 3 directions at once. Mercenaries in powered armor blasted through the main entrance while smaller teams infiltrated through ventilation shafts. The corridors filled with the sound of weapon fire and roaring Velthari war cries. Daeho fought beside Wansu, their bond allowing them to move as one being. Daeho's human unpredictability combined with Wansu's warrior training made them devastatingly effective. But the real shock came when they encountered the enemy soldiers up close. These were not ordinary mercenaries. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light and they moved with jerky, puppet-like motions. "They have been touched by the Devourers," Wansu said with horror. "The corruption spreads faster than we thought." The corrupted soldiers felt no pain and showed no fear. They attacked with mindless fury, caring nothing for their own lives. Only when Daeho and Wansu worked together could they disrupt whatever force controlled the enemy. The battle raged for hours. Many brave Velthari fell defending their home. In the end, Sun-Hee sacrificed herself to allow the others to escape. She faced Taemin himself in single combat, buying precious time with her life. "Find the other bonded pairs," she told Daeho with her dying breath. "Unite them before the true enemy arrives. The galaxy depends on it." As their stolen shuttle lifted off from the burning moon, Daeho felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. He was no longer just a maintenance worker trying to help a friend. He was part of something much larger and more important than he had ever imagined. The hunt for other human Velthari pairs had begun. The escape from New Busan left Daeho feeling hollow inside. Sun-Hee's sacrifice weighed heavily on his mind as their small group of survivors searched for a safe place to regroup. Only 12 Velthari had escaped the attack, along with Daeho and Yoonji. They found temporary shelter on an abandoned mining platform in the asteroid belt. As the survivors tended their wounds, one of the older warriors named Jinho shared the complete history that Sun-Hee had been teaching him. Listen well, human, Jinho said to Daeho. You must understand what we truly face. Jinho explained that thousands of years ago the galaxy was very different. Three great races worked together to guide and protect younger civilizations. The humans provided innovation and the ability to unite different peoples. The Velthari offered strength and wisdom. The shepherds maintained spiritual balance and harmony. We were not rulers, Jinho emphasized. We were teachers and guardians. We helped other races grow and learn without forcing our ways upon them. The partnership worked perfectly for many centuries. Peace flourished across the galaxy. Art, science, and philosophy advanced as never before. Different species learned from each other and created wonders together. Then came the first signs of the Devourers. They appeared from the dark spaces between galaxies, creatures of pure hunger that fed on life energy itself. Wherever they went, entire worlds became empty husks. The war lasted for generations, Jinho continued. We fought them across 1,000 star systems. But the Devourers had a terrible power. They could corrupt minds and turn our own people against us. The final battle took place in a star system that no longer existed. The three allied races made a desperate plan to stop the Devourers forever. The shepherds would sacrifice themselves to create a barrier that would trap the enemy in the dark spaces. The plan worked, but the cost was greater than we imagined, Jinho said sadly. The shepherds were lost. The barrier they created also separated the rest of us. Humans and Velthari were scattered across the galaxy with no way to find each other. Daeho felt tears in his eyes as he learned the full tragedy. So my people forgot everything. Yes. Humans rebuilt their civilization from nothing, not knowing what they had lost. My people wandered alone, trying to keep the old knowledge alive but growing fewer with each generation. Now the Devourers were returning, and the galaxy was defenseless. The ancient barrier was failing after thousands of years. Only the renewal of the human-Velthari alliance could stop them. But how do we find other bonded pairs? Yunji asked. The galaxy is so vast. Wansu had been quiet during Jinho's story, but now he spoke up. The bond creates a resonance. If we reach out with our combined consciousness, others like us will feel it and respond. Over the next few days, Daeho learned to extend his awareness through the spiritual connection with Wansu. It was like sending out a signal across the stars, calling to others who shared their unique bond. The first response came from the industrial world of New Seoul. A cargo hauler named Jinwoo Lee had been having strange dreams for weeks. In his visions, he saw himself fighting alongside a tall alien warrior with silver fur. When Daeho's call reached him, Jinwoo immediately knew what he had to do. He took his cargo ship and headed for the coordinates Daeho provided, driven by instincts he did not fully understand. They met at a neutral trading station. Jinwoo was a practical man who had worked hard his whole life to support his elderly parents. He was skeptical about spiritual bonds and alien partnerships. This is crazy, he said when Daeho explained the situation. I am just a cargo hauler. I deliver goods from one place to another. But when they brought him to meet Nara, the Velthari scout who had been watching human settlements for decades, everything changed. The moment their eyes met, both Jinwoo and Nara felt the bond form between them. I have waited so long, Nara said with wonder. I watched your people from the shadows, hoping to find one who could hear the old songs. Jinwoo staggered as new knowledge flooded his mind. Suddenly he understood piloting techniques that should have taken years to learn. His cargo ship, which he had always flown competently, now responded to his touch like a living creature. What is happening to me? He gasped. You are becoming what you were always meant to be, Wansu explained, a bridge between worlds. As their small group grew, they discovered that each bonded pair represented different aspects of the ancient alliance. Daeho and Wansu embodied courage and loyalty. Jinwoo and Nara represented exploration and discovery. They found others over the following weeks. Dr. Hyunji Park was a researcher studying alien psychology when she met her partner, a Velthari healer named Sora. Their bond allowed them to heal not just physical wounds but spiritual ones as well. Jiwon Kim was a soldier who had been having nightmares about battles among the stars. His partner was a Velthari tactical specialist named Dongsu. Together they could coordinate multiple teams with perfect precision. But as their network grew, so did the danger. The Razor Syndicate was hunting them actively, and their attacks were becoming more coordinated and deadly. Taemin is not working alone, Wansu observed, after they barely escaped another ambush. Someone is feeding him information about our movements. The truth came during a mission to rescue a group of human colonists from a devourer-touched world. As they fought their way through corrupted defenders, Daeho noticed something that made his blood run cold. The enemy moved with too much coordination. They knew exactly where the bonded pairs would be and how they would attack. Someone who understood their abilities was directing the opposition. We have a traitor among the allies, he told the others after they escaped. But the real shock came when they discovered the identity of their enemy. Hidden records from the destroyed world revealed that Taemino had once been part of an experimental program to create artificial bonds between humans and other species. He was one of us, Jinho said with horror, a bonded warrior who was corrupted. They learned that some humans in Velthari could not form true bonds. Instead of unity and hope, they created connections based on domination and hunger. These false bonds fed on conflict rather than cooperation. Taemin had been studying the real bonded pairs to find ways to corrupt them. He wanted to turn their spiritual connections into weapons of control. He has been hunting us to learn our weaknesses, Dr. Hyunji realized. Everything we have done, he has been watching and planning. The final proof came when they intercepted a transmission from Taemin to his mysterious masters. The message was brief but terrifying. The bonded pairs grow stronger. Recommend immediate action to prevent full alliance reformation. The devourers must be summoned before they complete their network. He is working directly with the enemy, Wansu said grimly. The devourers are using him to prepare for their return. As if responding to their discovery, attacks on human colonies increased dramatically. Entire star systems went dark as the corruption spread. Traditional military forces were helpless against an enemy that could turn their own people against them. Only the bonded pairs, protected by their spiritual connections, could resist the mental influence and fight effectively, but they were still too few and scattered to make a real difference. We need a base of operations, Daeho said during a strategy meeting. Somewhere we can coordinate our efforts and train new pairs. Nara had the answer. There is an ancient temple world in the Outer Rim. My people built it long ago as a place of meditation and learning. It has been abandoned since the Sundering. The temple world was called Sanctuary. It orbited a dying star in a system that most star charts marked as empty space. The Velthari had hidden it well. When they arrived, Daeho was amazed by what they found. Massive stone structures covered the main continent, carved with intricate designs that seemed to tell the story of the ancient alliance. Libraries filled with crystalline data storage contained knowledge from a dozen civilizations. Most importantly, the temple complex had been built to amplify psychic connections. Bonded pairs could communicate across vast distances while standing in the central chamber. This is perfect, Yoonji said, as she explored the communication arrays. We can coordinate rescue missions and find new pairs from here. But their success had not gone unnoticed. As they worked to restore the temple's systems, Wansu received disturbing reports from Velthari scouts across the galaxy. Taemin is gathering a massive fleet, he told Daeho. Ships from dozens of criminal organizations and corrupted military units. They are all converging on this sector. Dr. Hyunji had even worse news. I have been analyzing the corruption patterns on the attacked worlds. The devourers are not just returning randomly. They are being summoned through some kind of ritual. What kind of ritual? Daeho asked. The kind that requires the spiritual energy of bonded pairs as a power source, she said quietly. Daeho felt ice in his veins as he understood. He is not trying to destroy us. He wants to capture us. To use our bonds to open a permanent gateway for the devourers, Wansu finished. They had walked into a trap. Taemin knew exactly where they were and was already on his way with a fleet large enough to overwhelm their defenses. How long do we have? Jinwoo asked. Wansu consulted the long-range sensors. 3 days. Maybe 4 if we are lucky. Daeho looked around at his friends and allies. There were now 20 bonded pairs gathered at the temple, but that would not be enough to fight an entire fleet. Then we make our stand here, he said firmly. If Taemin wants to use this place for his ritual, we will make sure it costs him everything. The final battle was coming, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. With only 3 days before Taemin's fleet arrived, Daeho knew they needed more than just the 20 bonded pairs at the temple. He stood in the central communication chamber, reaching out through the psychic network to find every possible ally. "We cannot win through force alone," he told the assembled pairs. "We need to awaken the galaxy to what is really happening." Dr. Hyunji had been studying the temple's ancient records. She discovered that the original alliance had never been just about military power. The three races had succeeded because they inspired others to join their cause. "Look at this," she said, showing holographic displays of ancient battles. Humans, Velthari, and shepherds fought alongside dozens of other species. They created a coalition that spanned the entire galaxy. Wansu nodded thoughtfully. "My people's legends speak of this. The alliance grew because others saw that unity was stronger than division. Then that is what we must do," Daeho decided. "We reach out to every free government, every independent colony, every trading guild. We tell them the truth about what is coming." Yunji took charge of the communications effort. Using the temple's powerful transmitters, she began broadcasting warnings to every inhabited system. The message was simple but urgent. An ancient enemy was returning, and only by working together could they survive. The response was mixed. Some governments dismissed their warnings as fantasy, others were too afraid to act. But gradually, allies began to emerge. The Free Traders Alliance was the first to respond. These independent merchants had been losing ships to mysterious attacks for months. When they learned the truth about the Devourers, they immediately offered their support. Captain Boram Yoon commanded a small fleet of armed freighters. She arrived at the temple world with 50 ships and crews ready to fight. "We traders have always valued freedom above profit," she told Daeho. "If these Devourers want to enslave the galaxy, they will have to go through us first." The second major ally was unexpected. The healer clans from the Sigma sector had remained neutral in galactic politics for centuries. But their leader, Elder Myung-ja Song, remembered the old stories about the ancient alliance. "Our ancestors served alongside the three races," she explained when her medical ships arrived. "We pledged to heal the wounds of war and tend to those who suffered. That pledge still stands." More allies trickled in over the next 2 days. The mining guilds sent heavy construction ships that could be converted to warships. Several colony worlds contributed defense forces. Even some criminal organizations tired of being hunted by Tai Min's syndicate offered their services. But the most important development came from an unexpected source. Young Ho Choi, a communications technician on a remote research station, made contact with a discovery that changed everything. "You need to see this," he said during an encrypted transmission to the temple. "We found something in the outer system, something that has been waiting here for thousands of years." The research team had discovered a massive alien structure hidden in an asteroid field. It was clearly ancient but still functional. Most importantly, it contained survivors from the original alliance. Shepherd remnants, Jinho breathed when he saw the scans. Some of them survived the sundering. A small team led by Daeho and Wansu took a fast ship to investigate. What they found was beyond their wildest hopes. The structure was a preservation facility where a few hundred shepherds had placed themselves in deep sleep thousands of years ago. They had been waiting for the alliance to be reborn. The shepherds looked like tall, graceful beings made of living crystal. Their leader was named Kyung-min, and when he awakened, his first words were in perfect human language. "We felt the bonds reforming across the galaxy," he said with a voice like music. "We knew it was time to wake up." Kyung-min explained that the shepherds had not truly sacrificed themselves during the ancient war. A small group had used the barrier ritual to exile the Devourers, but they had survived by entering a state between life and death. "We have been watching and waiting," he said, "learning about what our sacrifice cost the galaxy. We see now that our isolation was a mistake." The shepherds brought incredible knowledge and power to the alliance. They could heal spiritual corruption and strengthen the bonds between pairs. Most importantly, they knew how to create a permanent defense against the Devourers. But it requires perfect cooperation between all three races, Kyung-min warned. "Any disharmony will cause the defense to fail." Time was running out. Taemin's fleet had been spotted by scout ships, and it was massive. Over 300 vessels of various sizes, all bristling with weapons. Worse, many of the crews showed signs of Devourer corruption. "He has been planning this for years," Nara reported after analyzing the fleet composition. Ships from a dozen different military forces all working together despite old rivalries. "The corruption makes them cooperate," Dr. Hyunji realized. They serve the same master now. The temple world's defenses were impressive but limited. Ancient weapon platforms still functioned, and the Allied fleet now numbered nearly 200 ships. But Taemin had brought overwhelming force. "We cannot win a direct battle," Wansu admitted during the final strategy meeting, "but we do not need to win. We only need to survive long enough to complete the ritual." Kyungmin had been teaching the bonded pairs how to combine their spiritual energy with shepherd crystal technology. The process would create a galaxy-wide barrier that would trap the Devourers in their dark dimension forever. "But the ritual leaves us vulnerable," he warned. "All bonded pairs must focus their energy inward. They cannot fight while the process is active." Daeho looked around at his allies. Humans, Velthari, shepherds, and representatives from dozens of other species. The alliance had been reborn, but would it be strong enough? "Then we hold them off," Captain Bo-Ram said firmly. "Give us your shopping list of time needed, and we will buy it with our ships and our lives." Elder Myungja nodded agreement. "The medical ships will evacuate wounded and provide support. We have come too far to fail now." The battle began exactly as expected. Taemin's corrupted fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation and immediately opened fire on the Temple World's defenses. The ancient weapon platforms responded with devastating energy beams, but there were too many enemy ships. The Allied fleet met them in space while Daeho and the bonded pairs retreated to the central temple to begin the ritual. "Remember," Kyungmin said as they took their positions around the crystal focusing array, "any doubt or fear will disrupt the process. You must trust completely in your bonds and in each other." Daeho felt Wansu's presence in his mind, strong and reassuring. Around the chamber, other pairs joined hands with their partners. The shepherds began to sing in harmonies that seemed to resonate with the fabric of space itself. Outside, the battle raged. Captain Bo-Ram's traders fought with desperate courage, using their knowledge of space lanes to lead enemy ships into asteroid fields and weapon platform fire zones. The Healer clan ships darted between the larger vessels, rescuing survivors and providing supplies. But slowly, the defenders were being overwhelmed. Too many ships were being destroyed, and Taemin's fleet was pushing toward the planet. "The ritual is working," Kyungmin announced as energy began to build in the crystal array. "But we need more time." That was when the unexpected happened. Young Ho Choi's voice crackled over the communication system with impossible news. "Unknown fleet emerging from hyperspace. They are broadcasting Alliance identification codes." On the tactical display, dozens of new contacts appeared, but these were not enemy reinforcements. They were ships from the core worlds, human naval vessels, Velthari clan ships, and others flying flags that had not been seen together for thousands of years. "This is Admiral Haewon Jung of the Earth Defense Force," came a crisp voice over the radio. "All Allied vessels, we are here to support the temple defense." "How did they know to come?" Yoonji asked in amazement. The answer came from an unexpected source. Taemin himself appeared on the communication screen. But something was wrong with his cybernetic implants. Sparks flew from damaged circuits and his voice was distorted. "The ritual is affecting the corruption network," Dr. Hyunji realized. "The Devourer's control is breaking down." Taemin was fighting the alien influence in his mind. "Cannot control." The signal reached core worlds. They remember the old alliance. Across the galaxy, the growing spiritual energy from the temple was awakening genetic memories in both humans and Velthari. People who had never heard of the ancient alliance suddenly felt compelled to help defend the temple world. "The bonds are spreading," Wansu said with wonder. "Not just between pairs, but between entire populations." The tide of battle turned as fresh reinforcements engaged Taemin's confused and weakening fleet. But the cyborg warlord had one final desperate plan. "If I cannot have your energy for the summoning," he snarled, "then I will destroy you all." Ramming speed, all ships target the temple. A dozen of his largest vessels broke formation and dove toward the planet's surface. Their goal was to crash into the temple and disrupt the ritual before it could be completed. "We cannot stop them all," Admiral Young reported. "Some will get through." Daeho felt the weight of the galaxy's fate on his shoulders. The ritual was almost complete, but not quite. If the temple was destroyed now, the Devourers would eventually break free and consume everything. That was when he made a choice that would be remembered forever. Instead of maintaining the protective barrier around the temple, he redirected all the spiritual energy outward. "What are you doing?" Kyungmin asked in alarm. Trusting in the alliance, Deho replied. The energy wave spread from the temple across the entire star system. Every ship, every person, every artificial intelligence touched by the wave suddenly felt the connection to something greater than themselves. Human and Velthari crews who had been fighting separately suddenly moved in perfect coordination. The Shepherd Crystal Singers found their voices joined by thousands of others across the fleet. Even the corrupted ships began to turn on each other, as their crews remembered who they really were. Taemin's ramming ships were intercepted not by weapons but by sacrifice. Dozens of allied vessels threw themselves into the path of destruction, their crews singing the old songs as they died. In the temple, the ritual reached completion, just as enemy ships crashed into the mountain above them. But it was too late to stop what had begun. A wave of pure harmony spread out from the temple world, racing faster than light across the galaxy. Wherever it touched, the corruption of the Devourers withered and died. The barrier between dimensions sealed permanently, trapping the ancient enemy in their dark realm forever. But more than that, the wave carried with it the memory and promise of the Alliance. Every inhabited world felt the touch of unity, the possibility of working together despite differences. Taemin, freed from the Devourer's influence, collapsed weeping among the ruins of his flagship. "What have I done?" he whispered. "What have I become?" Deho felt no anger toward the former enemy. "You became lost," he said gently, "but now you can choose to be found again." The immediate crisis was over, but Deho knew this was just the beginning. The Alliance had been reborn, but it would take time and effort to build the lasting peace their ancestors had envisioned. As he stood among the ruins of the temple with Wansu at his side, watching the combined fleets of a dozen species working together to rescue survivors, he felt hope for the future. The eternal hunt was beginning again, but this time they would not hunt alone. 1 year after the great battle at the Temple World, Deho stood on the observation deck of the new Alliance headquarters. The space station orbited a peaceful world in the galactic core, where representatives from hundreds of species worked together to build a better future. The view outside showed construction ships from a dozen different civilizations working side by side. Human engineers shared techniques with Velthari builders, while Shepherd Crystal Singers provided harmony that made the work go smoothly. "Hard to believe how much has changed," Yunji said as she joined him at the window. She now served as the Alliance's chief communications officer, coordinating between thousands of member worlds. "The easy part is over," Deho replied with a smile. "Now comes the real work." The destruction of the Devourer corruption network had freed countless worlds from their influence. But freedom was just the beginning. Entire populations had to learn how to live without the fear that had dominated them for so long. Wansu approached from the direction of the training halls. As the Alliance's chief instructor, he spent his days teaching new bonded pairs how to use their abilities responsibly. "The morning class graduates today," he reported. 12 new human Velthari pairs ready for field assignment. The bonding process had become much easier after the temple ritual. The spiritual wave had awakened dormant genetic memories in both species. Now humans and Velthari who were meant to be partners could find each other naturally. But not all the galaxy's problems had been solved. There were still conflicts between species, worlds struggling with poverty and disease, and criminal organizations that preyed on the weak. The Alliance's mission was to help wherever they could. "Where are we sending the new teams?" Deho asked. Wansu consulted his datapad. "The Centauri colonies are having disputes over mining rights. The Vega system reports strange energy readings that might be ancient technology, and there are pirates in the Outer Rim who need to be reminded that the galaxy has guardians again." Each mission was different, but they all served the same purpose. The bonded pairs were not conquerors or rulers. They were teachers, healers, and protectors who helped others solve their own problems. Dr. Hyunji Park had established medical centers throughout the galaxy where humans, Velthari, and shepherds worked together to heal both physical and spiritual wounds. Many former victims of corruption came to these centers to recover their true selves. Jinwoo Lee and his partner Na-Ra led exploration teams into the unknown regions of space. They had discovered 3 new civilizations in the past year, all eager to join the growing alliance. Ji-Won Kim coordinated defense efforts against the remaining criminal syndicates. His tactical genius, combined with his partner Dongsu's warrior training, had made them legends among both alliance forces and their enemies. But perhaps the most important work was being done by the shepherds. Led by Kyungmin, They traveled to worlds where different species lived in conflict. Their crystal songs could calm hatred and help enemies remember what they had in common. Speaking of the shepherds, Yunji said, Kyung-min sent a message this morning. They have made contact with a new species near the galactic rim. Daeho was immediately interested. First contact was always delicate work. What do we know about them? They call themselves the Watchers. They have been observing other civilizations for thousands of years but never made contact. They are curious about the Alliance and want to learn more. This was exactly the kind of opportunity the Alliance existed for. New species often needed guidance as they joined the galactic community. Sometimes they brought wisdom of their own that benefited everyone. I will take a team to meet them, Daeho decided. Are you sure? Wansu asked with concern. You have been working without rest for months. Perhaps it is time for others to take the lead. Daeho considered this. It was true that he had been pushing himself hard since the temple battle. As the first of the new generation of bonded pairs, many people looked to him for leadership and guidance. But that was exactly why he needed to keep working. The Alliance was still fragile. It needed strong examples to inspire others. One more mission, he promised. Then I will take a vacation. 3 days later, Daeho and Wansu boarded a fast scout ship along with a small diplomatic team. The journey to the galactic rim would take 2 weeks through hyperspace. During the trip, they received regular updates from Alliance headquarters. The work continued in their absence. New bonded pairs were graduating every week. Trade agreements were being signed between former enemies. Scientific discoveries were being shared freely between species. But there were also troubling reports. Some human governments were becoming suspicious of the Alliance's growing influence. A few Velthari clans still preferred isolation to cooperation, and there were rumors of new criminal organizations forming in the chaos left by Taemin's defeat. Change is never easy, Kyung-min said during one of their regular communications. There will always be those who prefer the old ways, even when the old ways brought only suffering. The shepherd had grown wise during his long sleep. He understood that the Alliance could not force peace on anyone. They could only offer better alternatives and hope that others would choose wisely. When they reached the Watcher homeworld, Daeho was amazed by what they found. The planet was covered in massive observatories and libraries that contained records of galactic history, going back millions of years. The Watchers themselves were tall, thin beings with large eyes adapted for seeing across vast distances. Their leader, who called himself Seung-ho, greeted them with formal politeness. We have observed your alliance with great interest, he said in carefully pronounced human language. You have accomplished in 1 year what we thought would take centuries. We had good teachers, Daeho replied, gesturing to Wansu and thinking of Sun-hee's sacrifice. Seung-ho led them through the archives, showing them records of the original alliance from thousands of years ago. We watched the first war against the Devourers. We saw the great sacrifice and the long years of division that followed. Why did you never try to help? Wansu asked. We believed that interference would only make things worse. We thought each species must find its own path to wisdom, but the recent events had changed their perspective. Seeing the alliance rebuild itself through cooperation rather than conquest had convinced them that some interference was not only acceptable, but necessary. We wish to contribute our knowledge to your cause, Seung-ho announced. Our observations have shown us the locations of lost colonies, ancient technologies, and species that have been isolated for millennia. This was exactly what the Alliance needed. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless civilizations that could benefit from contact with the wider community. But as they discussed the details of cooperation, an urgent message arrived from Alliance headquarters. Unji's voice was tense with worry. Daeho, you need to return immediately. We have received distress calls from 12 different systems. Something is attacking Alliance facilities. The message included scanner data that made Daeho's blood run cold. The attacking ships used technology that should not exist. Weapons that could disrupt psychic bonds and armor that was immune to most Alliance defenses. It is not possible, Wansu said as he studied the data. These ships are using corrupted Shepherd technology. Kyung-min's image appeared on the communication screen, his crystal features flickering with distress. There is something I did not tell you about the barrier ritual. Some shepherds opposed the plan. They believed we should have found another way to stop the Devourers. What happened to them? Daeho asked. They separated from us before the ritual began. We thought they had died in the final battle, but apparently some survived, and it seems they have spent the last 1,000 years planning their revenge. The rogue shepherds called themselves the Purists. They believed that the Alliance was corrupting the galaxy by forcing different species to work together. In their view, each race should remain separate and pure. They are everything we stand against, Kyungmin said sadly. They have taken our greatest strength, the ability to create harmony, and twisted it into a weapon of division. The attacks were carefully coordinated. The Purists struck at symbols of cooperation, mixed species colonies, joint research facilities, and diplomatic conferences. They did not try to conquer territory. Instead, they sought to break the bonds of trust that held the Alliance together. We have to stop them, Daeho said as their ship raced back toward Alliance space. But how? Wansu asked. They know all our techniques and have had centuries to plan counters for them. The answer came from an unexpected source. Tae-min No, who had been working to make amends for his crimes, contacted them with vital information. I know where they are hiding, he said. His cybernetic implants had been removed, leaving him looking more human than he had in years. During my time with the Devourers, I encountered their agents. They have a base in the Dead Zone between galaxies. The Dead Zone was a region of space where stars had burned out long ago, leaving only cold planets and ancient ruins. It was the perfect place to hide from the rest of the galaxy. I want to help stop them, Tae-min continued. It is the least I can do to repay the harm I caused. Daeho was hesitant to trust the former warlord, but they needed all the help they could get. The Purist attacks were spreading, and some Alliance members were beginning to question whether cooperation was worth the risk. The mission to the Dead Zone required careful planning. The Purists would be expecting retaliation, and their base would be heavily defended. Worse, the region was so far from normal space that communication with Alliance headquarters would be impossible. We go in fast and hit hard, Daeho decided. A small force of our best bonded pairs. Get in, destroy their ability to launch attacks, and get out. Wansu agreed with the strategy. Large fleets move slowly and can be detected, but a small group might reach their base unnoticed. They gathered 12 of the most experienced bonded pairs for the mission. Each team brought different skills: combat, infiltration, technical expertise, and healing. Together, they represented everything the Alliance stood for. The journey to the Dead Zone took 3 days through uncharted hyperspace routes. When they emerged, they found themselves in a graveyard of dead stars and frozen worlds. Sensors are detecting artificial structures on the third planet, reported Captain Minsu Kang, whose partner was a Velthari navigation specialist named Hyejin. The Purist base was built into the ruins of an ancient city. Massive crystal spires reached toward the empty sky, their surfaces dark and cold. But deep underground, energy readings showed that the facility was very much alive. There, Tae-min pointed to a section of the ruins. That is where they launch their attack ships from. If we can destroy the launch bays, we can trap them here. The assault began at dawn. Though in the Dead Zone, dawn was just an arbitrary time marker. The bonded pairs moved in perfect coordination, their psychic links allowing them to communicate without radio transmissions that could be intercepted. But the Purists were ready for them. As soon as the Alliance teams entered the ruins, crystal weapons began firing from hidden positions. The weapons disrupted psychic bonds, forcing the pairs to fight as individuals rather than unified teams. Stay together, Daeho shouted as he and Wansu took cover behind a collapsed wall. Do not let them separate us. The battle raged through the ancient streets. The Purists fought with cold precision, using their knowledge of Alliance tactics against them. But they had forgotten something important about the bonded pairs. The bonds were not just tactical advantages. They were expressions of friendship, loyalty, and love between different species. Even when the psychic links were disrupted, the emotional connections remained strong. Daeho and Wansu fought back to back, protecting each other through instinct and trust rather than telepathic coordination. Around them, other pairs did the same. The Purists' weapons could disrupt their abilities, but they could not break the bonds of the heart. Slowly, the Alliance teams pushed deeper into the complex. They found laboratories where the Purists had been experimenting with corrupted crystal technology. Computer cores contained plans for attacks on hundreds of Alliance worlds. At the center of the facility, they found the Purist leader. He called himself the Pure One and had modified his crystal body with dark energy that made him look more like shadow than light. "You have polluted the galaxy with your mixing of species," he said in a voice like breaking glass. "We will restore the natural order, each race in its proper place, separate and pure." "Separation brings only loneliness and fear," Deho replied. "We have seen what cooperation can accomplish. You have seen weakness disguised as strength. Watch as I show you true power." The Pure One began to sing, but his song was nothing like the harmony of other shepherds. It was a melody of discord that tried to turn the alliance teams against each other. Human and Velthari partners suddenly felt suspicion and mistrust toward each other. For a moment, the bonds wavered. But then Deho did something unexpected. Instead of fighting the discord, he embraced it. He acknowledged the differences between himself and Wansu, the difficulties they had overcome, and the effort it took to understand each other. "Yes, we are different," he said aloud. "That is what makes us strong. Wansu sees things I cannot see. He knows things I will never know. Together, we are more than either of us could be alone." His words broke the spell of the Pure One's song. Around the chamber, other pairs began to speak about their differences and why those differences made them better partners. The Pure One's shadowy form began to flicker. "Impossible. Division must triumph over unity. It is the natural way." "Nothing about civilization is natural," Wansu replied. "We choose to be better than our instincts. We choose to build rather than destroy. The battle's end came not through violence but through understanding." Faced with the genuine bonds between the alliance pairs, the Pure One's twisted philosophy began to crumble. His followers, seeing the strength that came from cooperation, began to remember why they had once fought alongside other species. One by one, the purists laid down their weapons and removed the dark modifications from their crystal bodies. They had been corrupted not by the devourers but by their own fear of change and difference. "We have been alone so long," the Pure One whispered as his shadow form dissolved, revealing a normal shepherd underneath. "We forgot what it felt like to belong to something greater." Kyung Min arrived with reinforcements just as the last of the purest technology was being destroyed. He embraced his former brother with tears of joy. "Welcome home," he said simply. The return journey to Alliance space was quiet but hopeful. The purest rebellion had ended not in destruction but in reconciliation. Even enemies could be redeemed when offered understanding instead of hatred. 6 months later, Deho finally took that vacation Wansu had suggested. They visited a peaceful world where human farmers worked alongside Velthari herders to raise crops that could feed both species. "The eternal hunt continues," Wansu observed as they watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. "What are we hunting for now?" Deho asked. "Connection, understanding, ways to bring different peoples together and help them see what they share rather than what divides them." Deho nodded. It was good work, even if it would never truly end. There would always be new challenges, new species to meet, new conflicts to resolve. But that was fine with him. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. There was room for everyone, and plenty of work for those willing to build bridges between different worlds. As the stars came out overhead, Deho felt the presence of all the bonded pairs across the galaxy, humans and Velthari working together, sharing their strengths and covering each other's weaknesses. The alliance grew stronger every day, not through conquest but through friendship. The eternal hunt would continue for as long as there were those willing to seek out the lost, protect the weak, and show others that unity was possible. And Deho could not imagine any work more worthy of a lifetime's dedication. In the distance, a new ship was approaching the planet. It carried representatives from a species the Alliance had never encountered before. Soon there would be new friends to make and new challenges to face. The hunt never ended, but that was what made it eternal.